Yes, yes. Okay. Let me clean that off. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, Marguerite. Welcome to 12 Faces of Sober Speaks podcast. Oh, the guest is already here. All right, so we're not gonna waste no time. Marguerite, let us know where you are watching it, tuning in from. Let us know. Welcome to another wonderful episode of 12 Faces of Sober Speaks podcast. My name is Kenneth Watson. I have been sober since November 15th of 2016. Been doing a podcast now. Oh, Florida. I just moved back from Florida. I was in Jacksonville. Um, yeah. Were you affected by, was it Hurricane Ian? Palm Beach? Wait, Palm Beach is, that's like near, I don't know, Fort Lauderdale, maybe? Okay. Oh, okay. Good, 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 good. But yeah, so this is actually my 60th episode, and I actually have a really good guest on here. We haven't met in person, but we talk like we're friends. You know what I'm saying? Well, we are friends, but like as if we've known each other for a lot of years. But from New York. Oh, okay, that's what's up. That's what's up. But yeah, so what I do with my podcast, I usually, I want to, interview people who have a good story in recovery. It doesn't matter if it's alcoholism or drugs, but I want people to come on and just share their testimony. Yeah, we are friends. I know. I had to correct myself. I'm sorry. Yes, you are. You are. You are. We're gonna meet one day too. We're gonna have to go to a Chargers Bills AFC Championship game one year. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully in the next year or two or something like that. But yeah, I'm not going to oh, yours is different. Oh, well, share what you want to, or make sure you give us both a follow. The Sober BFF, she's gonna be my guest, and make sure you follow 12 Faces Sober. We both have great, amazing content, and we're just out here trying to help people and spread the awareness of sobriety and how life is, post alcohol. Oh, okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's always good to have someone in their corner to support and love and show that love to a family member. Because I know my mom did the same exact thing for me some 6 years ago. So yeah, so much kudos and respect to you for sure. But what's going on, Black Legacy? I think he's in New York. I did see that in his profile. I was looking at your profile earlier today. I think you're out of New York, spreading motivational things, or motivational quotes. I believe is what was your headline on your page. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast. We gonna jump into it because I don't want to hold up too much of the time. But I'm gonna tell you my usually on Tuesdays not usually but for the last 2 months on Tuesdays I usually help the homeless here in the Twin Cities, and I forgot that I scheduled this interview. So normally from 2 to like 9 p.m. I'm out fellowshipping with the homeless because like I said I was homeless in 2016 in Phoenix, Arizona. So I just felt like it was time for me to give back. But what's going on, recovery survey? So yeah, so I had to cut that short to do this podcast. But like I said, podcasting is my life now. I'm a disabled veteran of the Army, so this is all my work. I'm an author, podcaster, businessman. I sell merch as well too. You guys can go on 12facesofsober.com. Check that out. Also have a book called 12 Faces of Sober. You can get that on Amazon as well as my website. It became a bestseller on Amazon back in February 22nd of this year. So without further ado, let me see if I can add her. And let's see, because yesterday I was having difficulties with this. Let's see if it works. Oh, hello, hello, hello. What's going on?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good, and yourself? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah. So I see you rocking something that, shouts out to the Buffalo Bill.
I had to do it. It was only right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I had to put mine on just cause. That's why I was like,
Perfect.
give me a couple of minutes. Let me switch it up. You know what I'm saying? But ladies and gentlemen, like I said, this is 12 Faces Over Speaks podcast, episode 60. My guest is Nicole, or she also goes by Sober BFF. We've been following each other now. I would say this is the 10th month, so I
Gotta
probably
be around there.
yeah, they're pretty much this whole entire year. Let me say she has great content. Um, Definitely, one thing I noticed is the importance of family and sports. You know what I'm saying? And sobriety, of course. So,
Definitely.
and we've been talking before, trying to schedule this, but the it didn't work out, which is fine. But like I said, we're on the night, and so we're gonna definitely take advantage of it. Make sure if you guys have any questions, put it in the comment box, and we'll get to it as need be. But Nicole, welcome to 12 Faces of Sober Speaks podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad we could figure out a time that works. I'm sorry you had to leave your uh, good community service work to come and chat. That's awesome that you do that. Awesome.
Yes,
I love it.
yeah, I actually started doing it on my birthday, August 2nd. I was going out there to do a live on Instagram, and I had on a shirt that said "Spiritual Warrior," and there were these two buses, and they were like these ladies were looking at me, and I'm like, okay, like like are they checking me out or whatever type stuff? And then so I went ahead, I did my live, and then I walked back to the parking lot, and I was like, what you guys got going on? She's like, well, we go around and help the homeless. And I was like, oh, wow. I said, well, I was
Love
homeless in
that.
2016, right before I got sober. And I said, this has to be like that higher power or God that's looking out for me, because I always told myself that I wanted to give back. And so I've been doing it ever since, except for the 1 week I was in Florida. But I've been doing it religiously because I just feel like I have that story. I can tell people, hey, I was there. I changed my life. I got sober, got my master's degree, authored a book, and so on and so forth. So it's just like I said, just try to let people know that there is true hope out there if you make the right changes in your life. But enough about me. So let's talk about you. Give us a backstory on you, where you're from, things like that. How life was growing up, and
Sure.
were you around alcohol as a youngster?
Sure. So I am from obviously Buffalo, New York, born and raised. I spent 1 year in Fort Lauderdale where my mom is, when I was pregnant. But aside from that, I've always been here. And there was alcohol use in childhood, like throughout my family or whatever. But I didn't really experiment with alcohol until I was 19, I think, in college. And I think for the most part, it was the normal drinking when you go out, partying, having a good time. And it wasn't until the last maybe 10 years that the drinking got a little bit heavier and it became more of like a self-medicating type of thing over
Mm,
just having like a good time.
okay. Now, now is how do I say it? Like college, yeah, I would definitely say, because I had to think about it for a second, because I went to four colleges before I got my bachelor's degree. But I know that the last university I went to, which was here in Minnesota, it was there. It was like, okay, I'm 21, new on the campus. Everybody went to me to get the alcohol. And so it was like, and I didn't realize, like, hey, this can be a problem, because it was like, hey, I'm free to purchase alcohol. So
Yeah.
I didn't look at it like that. But it's interesting that you say, like, we just, like I said, we're being that age group of 18 to 23,
Yeah.
and free breaking away from home and like, oh, I want to try something, but did you ever like during that time, did you realize it was a problem or was it more or less like you said, like later on,
I
post
mean,
college?
it was definitely just a good time, but I've definitely always been the one to overdrink. I
Okay.
remember we would go into there was a club by I just went to like a community college. I mean, we were young and they let us into like I think they have them in other places, but in New York State there's a lot of places that won't serve alcohol past like a certain hour it switches over or you get like a stamp on your hand if you're under 21 and they don't serve you, but they
Hmm.
served us. And
Right.
we would pregame in our dorms, and I remember I drank so much I like passed out in the bathroom. A
Mm,
girl found me in the bathroom and my roommates had to like carry me out of the bar. They were like, you guys are never, because we weren't even supposed to be drinking, so like you guys are never, they still let us back, but they said we were never allowed again. They had to like put me in a shower and stuff like that should scare you, but I was like, nah, the next day, a little hungover, no big deal. But I've had many instances where I just overdrank to the point of blacking out or needing to be taken care of.
mm,
So yeah. So
okay.
I probably should have caught on a little bit sooner that maybe this wasn't the right path. But yeah, it wasn't until I think I just matured and really started to like my anxiety and depression and just all of it combined, I was like something has to change. But from like 19 to 30, I was like, ah, this is just a good time.
Mm. Yeah, and that's typical. I would say that college years is like we don't have those true responsibilities, and we feel like okay,
Right.
well, nobody's here to like police us, and so it's
Right.
like, all right, well, we gonna do whatever whatever it is, and because I know, and I don't know how it was for you in Buffalo, but I remember this reveals my age, but back in was it 2000 between 2001 to 2003 up here in Minnesota. So this is north of the Twin Cities, so it's a little bit colder. Of course, back then cell phones didn't have all the luxury of telling you what the temperature was. We would just go outside in the winter. We would walk for miles trying to go from random house parties and stuff, all
Yep.
just so that we can party and drink. So I understand completely. Now, so you had a period of time where your college years up until you were 30, you lived life and you drank. So despite all of that, when was it you felt like, okay, maybe this could be a problem? Did somebody have to tell you, or was it something that you told yourself?
Well, I think for me, I don't necessarily identify with being an alcoholic. I don't think I ever had like a chemical dependency, thank God. But it was more of it just completely affecting my mental health and realizing that I wasn't just using it to have a good time, to take the edge off. I was like trying to black out to just numb things. So I
Mm,
went through like a few losses in my life. My mom also drinks, and I've struggled with that in my adulthood a lot. So I actually did Al-Anon 4 years ago, maybe, and that really helped me to take the focus off of her and men in my life as well. I've had that issue with where it's like they drink so much and it's triggering for me. um so through that I kind of looked at myself because that's what it teaches you, right, is to instead of worrying about the alcoholic or the addict in your life to kind of look at yourself.
mm,
And when I did that, I was like, well, damn, who am I to judge anybody else? I'm doing, I don't think my drinking was negatively affecting anybody else, but I didn't want it to, right? Like I knew what everybody else's drinking was internally doing to me, so I wanted to just cut that out. So that was like 3 or 4 years ago that I did Al-Anon, and really, it was so helpful to me. It was so helpful, and I wish that I would have done it probably when I was like 19 because I've dealt with my mom's drinking and I've struggled internally. Um, but then yeah, I would take time off from drinking. I would do the back and forth, and then a little bit over a year ago, I was like, this is just not working for me. I got some therapy to deal with why I was drinking so much, I guess, and why everybody else's drinking was kind of affecting me negatively. And once I put myself into therapy and got on an antidepressant, because that was the main thing. It was just my anxiety was so high. And we know that alcohol is a depressant, right? Like,
Right.
duh,
Yeah.
hello.
It brings out all kind of emotions.
It does. And I think when you're struggling, and I have a lot of mental health things in my family too.
Mhm.
Um, I think just the reality of it, like when you really sit down and think about it, I'm like, if I'm, and I was emotionally really, really struggling. It's like, why am I pouring this poison into my body that I hate so much? You know, I hate it for the things that it's made me feel. So once I really could get into like a clear headspace, it just made sense for me
Mm.
um, to stop drinking. And so I'm lucky, and I try to be careful with my words because I know that it's not an easy thing for a lot of people to quit. And if you're really fighting this demon of addiction, it's not easy. It's been relatively easy for me to make this switch because I don't think I had a chemical dependency. So I try to be careful about my words and not make it seem like I don't know.
No, it's quite all right because I mean, and I'm glad you shared what you just did because you know we we face those types of challenges in life. I had a lot of things that happened to me. Right as I started to pick up my drinking. I had moved to Arizona, just got my bachelor's degree, was working in radio up here, thinking like, oh, okay, I can go to Arizona, which is a higher market than Minnesota was, and I should be able to get a job. No, it it
Didn't
didn't
work
matter.
that way.
You know what I'm saying? It didn't work. So it's like, despite the fact that, okay, I have not only the experience, I have the degree, I'm thinking like, oh, I'll be able to just walk into any radio station and be able to get a job. No, it wasn't like that. I had to go get a regular job. And so it was like mentally that drew me because it was like, all right, I worked all this hard, went to 4 colleges to get this bachelor's degree, did the internships, still couldn't find work. So now it's starting to play with my mind because I know that when I was in school, in high school in San Diego, they was like, you know, you'll be lucky to even get an associate's degree because I was bored with the school I went to, was one of the only black kids, and we just got, the black students got treated bad. So
Sure.
I never took school serious until I got into college. And so once I got the degree, I'm thinking like, all right, I'll be able to get a, secure job. No, it wasn't like that. And so that's where my mental health started to go because it was like I was already told over and over I couldn't do school, and then now I get the degree and I can't get work. And so that's, like you said, I'm glad you brought that up because it can be something that's traumatic. Like I said, not finding a
Yeah.
job or, family issues and things of that nature. And so, we develop these issues and sometimes we don't necessarily know like where is it coming from? Oh, okay, now I'm having, anxiety attacks or this and this and that. Because I know when I was growing up in my household, we didn't talk about mental health issues.
Right.
So
Right.
it was like, okay, yeah, you all right. You know what I mean? You'll
Mm-hmm.
have a conversation, but yeah, you'll be all right. You'll
Definitely.
get over it. And then out, that's how, we kind of dealt with it until I started to kind of abuse it more, abuse alcohol. And then I'm like, dang, now all these other emotions is coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Now childhood trauma, this and that happened, seeing my dad drinking as I was growing up. And so
Yep.
that's, it definitely is a hard pill to swallow.
Yep.
Not to use that as a cliche statement, but it's the truth. Now, you also mentioned therapy. Now, how has that helped you in terms of, being a better person?
Oh God, it's helped so much. I think I probably should have been in therapy. I mean, I'm adopted. My mom who adopted me is a lesbian. My birth mother is dead. She was, a heroin addict and prostituted. I mean, I have a lot going on, right? Ever since I was a child, and I don't think I had a proper outlet. Not to say that I carry all these things with me every day because I don't, but internally they're little things and you just hold on to them and you maybe talk to them about your friends. But I think until you get that professional help to sit down and to talk to somebody, you just need it. And so now I know better how to, if I'm feeling really stressed, like I have a hard time with my dad. I didn't meet him until I was 30.
Mm.
Um, and it's just tough. You know, life is short. It's like you don't want to harbor these bad feelings. You know, what's in the past is in the past. But I've learned, you know, I can journal, I can write things down. I don't have to take everything head on. I do the same thing with my mom sometimes when I struggle with her or we're butting heads. I can write these things down. I don't need to say everything to everybody that I feel it's not necessary. And
Mhm.
just learning to like feel your feelings. Like that's the whole thing that alcohol was doing for me. Like, you know, I'm upset about a boyfriend or my family things or, you know, being a mom is hard, whatever it is, you know, you would drink about it, drink about it, drink about it and not feel it. And then it made everything so much worse, you know. And now I'm fighting with my best friend and I'm fighting with my boyfriend. And the next day I wake up and what was the fight even about? Nothing feels better. But therapy has definitely taught me how to cope a little bit better, maybe why I was drinking. But that's the main thing I think is just kind of how to cope because for years, you know, we would drink when we celebrated, when things were good. We would drink at the funeral. We would drink at the wake. You drink at the baby shower. You drink at everything. So learning to just kind of navigate through life in the healthy ways to get through things, talking to people more. You know, I call my sister a lot when things are bothering me, and I didn't know my sister either till I was 30. So I mean, I've had a lot of things thrown at me again, like I said, in the last like 10 years um, that really just kind of threw my life kind of upside down and that's what I did was I drank. But therapy has just been it's been incredible. And it still was seeing a psychiatrist. You know, I thought that because I've had anxiety, I think for much of my adult life, I thought it was almost normal. Like we would joke, like, oh my God, I'm just anxious. But once I got like on an antidepressant and started to work through these things, I'm like, okay, so the way that I like the tightness in my chest when I would go to sleep, that's normal. Like you're not supposed to feel that. Maybe once in a while, but not all the time. So I think that was instrumental, and all of that kind of came first before me quitting drinking. But I don't think if I wouldn't have just said I need help for myself for my mental health, I don't think I would have gotten to the point of quitting drinking, and I would probably still just be a sad girl crying about who even knows what, drunk and embarrassing myself. So I try to, you know, there's such a stigma with mental health. And like you said, we don't talk about, I mean, we talk about it now, but yeah, growing up we didn't, and you don't
Mhm.
go to therapy, you know. So I'm glad that some of that is changing, but I definitely wish that I would have done some of this sooner. But it was instrumental, and I'm so thankful that for Al-Anon and for therapy, I think I kind of saved my life a little bit.
Yeah, that I'm gonna tell you because like when I was in the army, you know, because like I said, I struggled with alcohol, you know, during that whole 6 years. So I used therapy to get out of work and not necessarily
Mm-hmm.
to reap the benefits of it. Like, yeah, I did share some stories of
Sure.
things that happened in my life, but I don't think I really took therapy serious until I got sober because it's like, okay, I don't have anything to lean on anymore. You know, I'm not
Yeah.
getting no work. I was in grad school when I first got sober and everything, but I didn't miss class because I had a therapy session, you know? And so it was like, okay, this is me. I'm 100% invested. I need to get to the root of some of these problems, you know, like you said, dealing with, you know, the loss, I was in the process of getting a divorce. And so I had a lot of things, like you said, my anxiety was always on 10 because I was like, man, you know, I was just homeless literally, about a month and a half before I was in grad school. So it was like, you know, what is my purpose in life? Like, why am I here? Why am I being given this chance? And like I said, if I would have took that, you know, those therapy sessions serious in the past, maybe I don't even want to say. I'll just say that I'm glad I, you know, started doing therapy when I did because I knew what I needed and I needed it at that time, you know, and like I said, yes, it is good and it's a plus that, you know, today it seems to be something that's more commonly talked about as far as like mental health and, you know, getting the help that you need. And like I said, there's free services out there as well as paid services.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, a lot of people didn't take it as serious as they
Sure.
do. And I think, and I would probably say it has a lot to do with some of the changes that's happened, especially like that pandemic. And, a lot of people had, like you said, to think about life and like, okay, dang, I can lose my life by just going outside type stuff. So
Hmm.
I'm glad you touched on that. So let me see now. Okay. So, what exactly is your sober date? Because I forgot to ask you that at the beginning.
September 27th. So I just hit a year last week today. So
Congratulations.
thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Now,
you.
how has it how how have things been early in sobriety as far as like navigating through it? Obviously it's a completely different lifestyle. So how has it been for you?
It is so different. So I went from just like going out all the time, and if I wasn't going out, I was home, having a glass of wine or whatever. And I went through this thing where I, kind of walked away from some friendships. I think that that happens, but that was part of it, right? Like my mental health was so crazy. I was going through things with my friends, and everything was very heavy and very emotional. So I isolated a bit. I want to say, I quit in September. The last time that I drank was at a Bills game. It was a few weeks before that I hadn't drank, and then I had a friend's birthday, and we were going to the Bills game, so I drank for that. And the next day, I just felt horrible, and I didn't even like over drink, and I wasn't necessarily hungover the next day, but I was like, I just hate how much more emotional I feel, and I'm all discombobulated. So I really took a couple of months, and I was kind of like in isolation. Like I stayed home, I read Quit Lit, I listened to podcasts, which is how I found you, was on the Sober Onions podcast. Shout out to Crystal, I love her. Um, and yeah, I just immersed myself in this thought of, being sober and making this change for myself. And that was part of it too. Like the pandemic was so crazy. Everything felt very like you didn't have control of anything. The company that I worked with for at the time was going through this merge, and it was like, are we going to get laid off? Are we not going to get laid off? There were so many variables that felt very much like you don't have control of them. You don't know what's going to happen. And it was like, okay, I have this one thing that I'm not going to drink, and that is my one thing that I like have control over. That was my focus, and it felt good to have something in the palm of my hand that was concrete. And it sounds weird, but with so many other things going on in the world, I don't know, that just was my thing. Like this is the one thing that I can control. And after I got through like a few months, I started, doing more and making more friends. I got added to this um sober group on Instagram that's actually local. So I got connected to more sober people right in Buffalo, which is kind of unheard of, but that's been kind of cool. And now it's just like everyday living, it's definitely different. Um, but in a good way. I'm still doing most of the things that I was doing before. I mean, I don't enjoy going to bars, but I didn't enjoy going to bars probably the year before I quit. Like I didn't want that to be my life anymore. You know what I mean? So, but I can still go out with, my friends who are having a drink, and I cannot drink, and I can go to somebody's house while they're drinking, and I can have my San Pellegrino and feel great. So for the most part, those first couple of months were a little tricky, but now it just goes with the flow. The things that are hard for me are the heavy days where, I'm overly emotional. Something has happened with my friends, or something has happened wherever, and I'm emotional about something. That's when things get to be a little bit hard. But the normal, like going out and having a good time, I don't miss drinking at all. I don't miss it at all either way. But I mean, those are the only times that I feel are like hard, are the days where I'm sad, or I'm so aggravated. Um,
Because you're used
you
to
know.
going to that one thing when
Hmm.
you have those problems. Oh, trust me, I know
Yep.
completely. Which is, I
Yep.
mean, and that's good to be able to recognize it. I mean, it's most important, especially in the first year of sobriety, is you're basically learning yourself again.
Yeah.
Like riding a bike with training wheels, and that one day that you take those training wheels off, are you gonna fall or are you gonna keep on going?
Yeah.
And that's why I asked the question, because like I know for me, the first year of my sobriety, it was like a whirlwind. Started school. I went to South Africa like literally
That's
like three
amazing.
months into my sobriety, and then just kept traveling. And so it was like I was constantly keeping myself busy. And don't get me wrong, I was in situations where, like some of my family members, they still drink to this day. So it was
Sure.
like I have to deal with, okay, going to these family functions, knowing that at some point in my life, I was right there drinking with them. So now I can't be in that same circle when they're getting ready to take shots. I got to go in the house, make me a plate to eat or something, or whatever it is, because yeah, you're like I said, you're making those changes so that you don't put yourself back in that situation again.
Right.
So, I mean, that's good to recognize it. I mean, me personally, I wasn't going to nobody's bars because I didn't trust myself, and like I will.
Yeah.
This will be the first time, admitting this on any of my podcasts, but literally the first weekend of me getting out of rehab, like I said, I went to where I went to get my master's. I got my bachelor's from. Like I went by an old club. Now, mind you, I graduated in '03. This is 2017. And so I was like, man, okay, I can go to the bar. And I was like, I'm single, and I was like, well, let me go see. But I'm like, these kids are like the same age as my nephew, 18, 19, 20,
Yeah.
21. And I knew that I had no business being there. So what I do, I just turned around, went back to my apartment. But it was like, who knows what would have happened if I would have stepped inside that bar? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And because of the temptation, I know that in the past, I was literally like, I would get out of treatment that same day I was going to get something to drink. So I don't know what was different about this time. I just know that I didn't want to drink anymore. So I mean,
Right.
like I said, so ladies and gentlemen, you choose the path of what you're comfortable with early in sobriety. Some people are okay to be in those type of environments, and then there's some people like myself. This is I knew how I was, and so I knew
Yeah.
that I couldn't put myself in those situations. But if you feel uncomfortable, then like I said, you remove yourself from the situation. Don't
Yeah,
stay.
definitely.
Yeah, don't stay there just because you stay there, you might get yourself in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, and it's
Now,
not fun. I mean, the last time that I did go out, it's like it past a certain hour, it's like everybody's drunk, and unless you're drunk, like drunk people are annoying as hell, you know? I mean, there was like an old man breathing on me. I'm like, oh no, it's time to go. Check,
yeah,
please. Like, we gotta get out of here. So I can handle it in doses, but I mean, I have no desire to be. I didn't have the desire to be there before I quit. I was like, I don't want this to be my life. I'm too old to be in these bars. I need to be home. So yeah,
that makes sense. Now, saying as you mentioned earlier, you were saying that you when you did go out with your friends and you drank in excess and they probably saw you, like you said, you were passed out, things of that nature. So how do those same friends, and or if you still friends with them, how are they, and how is your family receptive to this new person, this
everyone
Nicole?
everyone's been really receptive. I mean, the girls that I went to college with are all married and we all lived in different places. But there's been plenty of people that have been around to see the not so good side of Nicole drinking and the ugly sides of it. Everybody's been super, super supportive. There's people that were in my life when I was heavy drinking that we've kind of, gone our separate ways. Some people I'm reconnecting with. I don't know how those relationships work um, now necessarily in person, but I have reconnected with some of the friends that I walked away from. But everybody has been super, super supportive. I mean, I think that most of my family and my close friends know how bad that I was struggling with my depression and my anxiety, and I carried that every day. So the people that were close to me knew that. So if it was finding therapy that was gonna fix those issues for me, or not consuming alcohol, like they're supportive, whatever is going to make me be the strongest person that I can be mentally. Everybody's been super, super supportive. I think it's weird for some people not knowing how to like approach things, can we drink around you? Is it okay? All those things. But most people have been super respectful. They'll ask, if we go out to dinner, is it okay if I have a drink? Stuff like that again doesn't bother me at all. Um, but it's good when people acknowledge it and want to be respectful of those changes.
Yeah, some people did the same thing to me. I'm like, man, look, I don't care. I
Yeah, I
was
don't
like,
care what you do.
yeah, if you want to drink, go ahead and drink. You know what I'm saying? And I even tell friends, like, I've had youngsters, I've had people that's, my age group, like, look, if especially they live in the same city as me, if you know you're not supposed to be driving, give me a call. I was like, I'm not
Exactly.
going to judge you. I'm not going to tell nobody. I just want to make sure that you get home safely. And so you don't have no issues with going to jail, DUI, and so on and
Hmm.
so forth, or hurting somebody because I
Yeah.
just don't want that on my head knowing that okay you went out and I could have prevented something happening. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how it is for me because I know that when I was out there drinking, people didn't care. They was like, man, if you want to leave, go ahead and leave. And
Hmm.
so I don't want to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that I shouldn't say this out loud, but I know that I've done crashed a few times when I shouldn't even have a license. Needless to say.
It's funny. I was just thinking today, I'll often like Uber Eats because I'm lazy as shit, but I have not called an Uber or ordered a Lyft in a year because, I can drive myself wherever I want to go now. I, for the most part, was very responsible as far as drinking and driving. So there was a lot of Uber calling and Lyfts. Um, but yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that I don't think I've called a Lyft in a year. And that's
Mm.
crazy, the amount of money that you think of,
You say,
just for, I mean, obviously just drinking as well, but Ubering every weekend or Ubering to my friend's house or Ubering home the next day.
yeah,
Um,
or Ubering during peak time when they want to charge you like 3 and 4 times. Because I remember, I think I had tried to get an Uber ride from Scottsdale to like West Phoenix, $100.
oh
Now
my
that
God.
same ride, like any other day, was like maybe at least like 30 or 40 bucks. And I was just like, and I had to pay it. I was drunk. So I was like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, hey, I got the money. I might as well just get home safely over, dealing with the drama that was going on in front of me. So
right.
yeah, um, all right, hold on a second. Let's see. So how has like you mentioned that you found me through Sober Onions podcast. So how has things been for you in terms of navigating through the sober community? Were you like me, like when you first started? Like I know that when I first started doing this little, I would say almost 3 years ago, like I was that person that would just scroll. Like I would look at something, I would read it, wouldn't really comment, wouldn't hit a like. I was just kind of curious to see what people were posting and how expressive they were. So how were things for you when you first started navigating through the sober community on Instagram? I mean on social media, period.
You know, I I didn't know that this side of Instagram existed. Like I don't even know. I think something I think popped up on it was on Instagram and it was for the book The Unexpected Joy of Being Sober.
Hmm.
So that was the first book that I read and it's like it popped and I don't know what stage I was at if I was, the few weeks I didn't drink before I ended up really quitting or what, but I was like, oh, that's interesting. I don't know how that came about. And then just looking through like the hashtags, and I was like, oh my God, there is this whole community out here. And I needed to see that because in my everyday life, I don't want to say I didn't have anybody, but there was nobody around or no vision of a person that wasn't drinking, that was doing the same things that I aspired to do, that were still living their lives, they were still having a good time. I just didn't have that out there at all. So to look at the sober community on Instagram and see people my age, see moms, see dads, see people of color, just the wide range of people who are like, I'm sober, I'm not drinking. These are the reasons why. I'm open and honest about it. I'm not, making this pretty. And having a good time and sometimes having humor about it and talking and having these open communications and it's not taboo. I was like, this is incredible. And I spent a lot of those first couple months where I wasn't drinking, I was like, I had a regular Instagram, not the one that I have now. And I made this one and I like shut down the other one. I got off of Facebook because Facebook was so negative and everybody in their political stuff. It was the stuff that was making me crazy. So I immersed myself in these podcasts and in the sober community. And I don't know that I would have been successful or that I would have had this view of sobriety being such a good and positive thing and something that I really wanted if I didn't see people really flourishing and talking about it, being open, and it doesn't have to be this taboo thing. So I was commenting, I was following, I was like, I think I messaged you like, oh my God, you're amazing. And the way that you spoke, like I was like, this is incredible. And that's why I made this page, and I try to be open and honest because I wish that I would have had somebody in real life my age that wasn't drinking to show me this thing, but it's so much different on social media. But that's why I created it. I'm like, if I can be that for one other person, um, it's all the more worth it, you know. But it's been, I wish that I would have stumbled upon these things so much earlier. Because, like I said, for a few years, I was like, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to keep doing this. Why are we going out? I don't want to go out. I don't want to drink. So I wish that I would have really have seen this other side of alcohol a few years ago. I think it would have been, helpful to me for sure.
Likewise, because I know that, like I said, my page has been in existence probably since, like, I would say since maybe like the first year or two. Instagram has been whatever, but I obviously had it under a different name.
Sure.
And when I had got the books, I think my book might have been out maybe like less than 6 months. And a friend of mine was like, "Oh, you got to change your handle, or you got to create another page." And I'm like, I don't know if I can manage two Instagram pages. So I was like, well, I'll just go ahead and um, just change it to 12 Faces of Sober, and then just clean it up. Clean up all the stuff that was in there. I'll save some of the pictures of, when I was intoxicated, just, show
Look
people that.
back on.
Huh?
To look back on.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. So, and that's what I did because, oh, hello, Talon. Big shouts out to Canada. I always got to say big shouts out to Canada because they always show me love. Yes, and she will be on my podcast hopefully in the next week or two. But yeah, just most definitely like I created it because I was like, I know I have a good story. I know that I can help
Mm-hmm.
people. I can use my past experiences as, that hope and motivation. Like if I make these changes, life can be better. I think Sisters in Sobriety, I believe, um, she posted something about, you know, people ask me, isn't being sober boring? I'm like, and she commented, I said, oh no, it's far from boring. I said, I've, channeled a whole different person from being
Yeah.
sober. Like I might not be dancing all crazy like I was, but I'm still loving life, but it's in a different way without that substance in my body. And, and it has its perks and benefits. I've lost a lot of weight in the process of not drinking. And, just it's, I'm not as negative. I'm not angry. I'm not like just,
Yes.
I still walk around with a straight face. Nobody can tell how I'm feeling unless I'm really smiling type. But, I would definitely say that being sober has, changed a lot within me, meeting good people. I think that if I would have just had the KLW 3434, I wouldn't have people like, forming friendships like this with you and other individuals like Talon as well. There's a lot of people that I've never really interacted with people from Canada like that. And there's no disrespect, but it's just like, I don't know nobody that lives up there, but because
Love Canada.
I want
Canada's
to, I,
Canada's 15 minutes
I'm
away
about
from
to say
me.
that's like across the street for you and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
It is.
But it's, like I said, that being sober has definitely opened up a lot of doors and meeting a lot of people that I would have probably never met if I just had a regular Instagram page. And so that's why I asked the question because, it is a good feeling to know, like, man, we can, have these conversations with strangers and can form friendships off of the
Yeah.
same thing. We're trying to stay sober and we're trying to spread a message and pass it along to the next person who might still be out there struggling.
And
So,
it's kind of funny too when you think about it. I never did AA as an adult, but I did go to AA meetings with my late Aunt Margot, who was a recovering alcoholic ever since I was a baby. And I used to go to meetings with her. And when I think about like the connection, like it was so in person then, but Instagram in this sober community almost gives you some of those same things without walking into a meeting. But you're sharing stories and it's a fellowship and you're making friendships and you're creating bonds. It's almost like those type of meetings in a 2.0 type of today fashion, kind
right,
of.
right, right. Yeah, that virtual reality or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it. So
Yes.
now what are some things that keep you busy through your sober journey? Like, you clearly had to make some slight lifestyle changes. You might still step, your foot into a bar, but clearly you're not acting the way you used to when you were drinking. So have
Definitely.
you picked up any things besides going to the bars now sober? Like, but so football, of course. But yeah, so like have you picked up anything since getting sober over the last year?
I started going to the gym,
Okay.
which has been something that I've tried to do for years. But I've started to do it more consistently. So just starting to create those routines and going to the gym. And honestly, those last few years was a lot of go, go, go and go to the bars and go out and have a good time. I'm enjoying kind of staying home. Like I bought a house 5 years ago and I was never here because I was constantly doing things. So I'm enjoying honestly staying home and being a little bit more low key. My daughter just started high school this year, so my life is revolved around driving her to all of her social events and her extracurriculars. So it's really, really busy, but I am enjoying, not being hungover and getting up early in the morning, feeling good, going to the gym and just having more time for myself. I think I struggle a little bit with social anxiety. So sometimes those instances of going out in these big social settings would make me incredibly anxious. So I'm so much more comfortable now being like, no, I don't want to go or I don't want to, and like turning things down and setting those boundaries. But yeah, I'm just kind of enjoying being home and occasionally, going out for a Bills game. I'm actually going to the game on Sunday, um, which I'm excited for. So
Mm.
yeah, it is much of the same. It's just not going out, but enjoying honestly just staying home a lot more.
Yeah, I wish I can go to a Chargers game. The closest game they got, they're actually playing in Cleveland this weekend. And that was the last. Well, actually, no, that wasn't the last Chargers game I went to. But I went to a Chargers game. Chargers Browns in Cleveland 4 years ago.
I like
But
Cleveland. I like Cleveland.
yeah, well, I didn't get a chance to really see too much of Cleveland. I was in Akron. My
Okay.
family, my dad's side of the family lives in Akron and stuff. So we
Okay.
kind of hung out with them and everything. But I really don't want to say I want to go to a Vikings game because I'm not a Vikings fan, even though like the stadium is like less than 15 minutes away from my apartment. But I don't know. I definitely want to go to a live game eventually
Yeah.
again because the last one I went to I think was like 3 years ago when I was in Jacksonville. I saw the Jaguars and the Chargers.
There
So,
you go.
but if they go to the Super Bowl this year, I might be punching the ticket to Arizona. I might have to do it. I'm not even going back. I might have to go back finally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, now, any challenges? Have you faced any challenges that you would like to share during your sober journey?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me the things that are challenging are just those tough days emotionally for me. If I'm feeling down and sad or I'm having especially conflict, if I'm having like I've tried to make amends with some people and if, those don't go over so well, I get defensive. Um, and sometimes I'm learning that I something can be really small. And if I just let it like simmer, I'll realize that it's small, but things can feel so big and so overwhelming, and they're not that big. So I think it's still just trying to like move through those emotions, feeling them, processing them, without the use of alcohol are the challenges. It feels so good to not do it. Like I don't feel like I'm afraid of anything happening here or wanting to drink. I know how much worse that can be, but those are definitely the challenging moments. I thought that it would be hard for me to socialize, and that hasn't really been an issue. It's the being alone, and if I'm in the middle of a conflict or I'm super stressed out where I'm like, oh, but I'll get outside, I'll take a walk, I'll call my sister, I will go to the gym. um I found some coping mechanisms that really work, but those are the challenges for me, are the days that are, my depression kicks in a little bit, my anxiety is a little heavy, or I'm having conflict with somebody. I'm like, oh my God. um but yeah, that's the biggest challenge thus far.
Mm, okay. Okay. And we getting close to the end, so I got two more questions for you.
Got you.
Um, so how will the Bills do this season?
The Bills. I said this the other day. I said this to my best friend Brian is a huge Dallas Cowboys fan, and I go there to watch games occasionally. And I'm like, listen, I thought going to concerts and not drinking would be hard. I thought like I'm like, dude, watching a Bills game, it's like your anxiety's like all over the place. Our game last week, they like sucked the whole first half, and then I like turned it off. I was like, I'm not even watching this. And then it comes back on, and it's great. But we've been living this roller coaster with the Bills since I was a baby, So they're doing really well. It's great to see them doing well. I don't want to jinx anything. Everybody says the Super Bowl. I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah, that's what's up. And then lastly, since you now have 1 year under your belt and you shared some really good information, um, what message would you leave people out there that's either sober curious or within their first year of sobriety?
Oh my gosh, if you're sober curious, just try it. Just take a month off and see how clear that your mind feels. Because I wish that I would have done that. I think I would have figured it out a lot sooner. And for anyone who's just starting out, find those lifelines. I know that there's so many people in the sober community that I could reach out to at any time of day and just say like, I'm having a bad day. I know sometimes it's hard, or it might be hard to say that to your real life people if they're not. What I quit drinking, a lot of people are like, why? What do you mean? It can be hard to say like I'm struggling and I want to drink. Some people might say, so drink, who cares? Um, so I think really finding those lifelines and making sure that you stay connected to people. Don't try to handle everything on your own, because life is heavy. Life is really heavy. So finding those lifelines and being open and honest and calling somebody if you need somebody.
That's what's up. Nicole, thank you so much for coming on 12 Faces of Sober Speaks podcast. You gave a different perspective. You're the first person that I've had on that had just a year of sobriety. And that might have been the reason why we kind of waited on the interview, because I wanted to, let you get a little bit more time under your belt and, provide just, some tools for those that are fresh in the game. You know what I mean? Because this is definitely not a sprint. This is a marathon. It's going to take you time, but you're giving people the hope early in sobriety, and you never know. You're definitely gonna come back on the podcast, maybe
You know it.
160 or something. You know what I'm saying? Just so get an update of how things are. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck and success in this sober journey, because it's gonna get better. You know what I'm saying? And meeting more people, um, jumping on more podcasts, telling your story. And then obviously you're going to add more pages to your sober journey as you navigate through it. And so, like I said, I truly appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, she said something very important, and that was therapy. I second that. I've been in therapy now over 10 years, but took it serious the last 6. And Nicole is not lying about that. Make sure if you have the funds and resources to get the help, please get it before it's too late. And you can't get out of your situation because you didn't seek the proper help that's out there. But ladies and gentlemen, this is another wonderful episode of 12 Faces Sober Speaks podcast. Be on the lookout for the next episode. Probably be sometime this weekend. I'll probably announce it tomorrow. But like I said, tune in, follow the both of us. I'll make sure to put that in the description once I put it on Instagram and on YouTube and all other platforms. She's definitely a good person to follow. I promise you on that one. And but like I said, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for checking in, commenting and everything. And like I said, until next time, thank you again, Nicole, for coming on, though.
Thank you so much for having me. I
All right.
appreciate it.
All right. This is
Talk to you
12.
soon.
All right. Take care.
Bye.